There are places in America that don't exist on maps anymore. Towns that were erased, not by time, but by something far more deliberate. Something so terrible that even the land itself seems to want to forget. Welcome to Dark Case Files. I'm your host, and before we descend into one of the darkest mysteries in Appalachian history, I need you to do two things. First, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the cases we cover here are the ones that were meant to stay buried. Second, drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. Are you alone? Is it dark where you are? I want to know. Today, we're going deep into the Appalachian Mountains to tell you about Black Hollow, a town that doesn't exist anymore, and the three sisters who may be the reason why. This is the story of Martha, Clara, and June Harlow, 21 years old, triplets, and according to those who survived to tell the tale, something far worse than human. High in the misty ridges of the Appalachian Mountains, there's a house that still stands, the old Hollow Creek farmhouse. Its walls are rotting, its windows shattered by decades of abandonment. But on certain nights, locals from the surrounding valleys swear they can still hear something coming from that place. Laughter. Three women laughing in perfect unison from the cellar. This is their story. And it begins in the year 1859, Black Hollow, Virginia. A settlement of fewer than 300 souls, nestled so deep in the mountains that it took 2 days on horseback just to reach the nearest trading post. It was a place where the old ways still held power, where families spoke in hushed tones about things that walked the woods at night, where certain names were never spoken aloud after dark. The Harlow name was one of them. Jacob Harlow was the town drunk, a failed lumberman who spent more time with whiskey than with his family. His wife, Eliza, was known as a quiet woman. Too quiet, some said. She kept to herself, raised her daughters in isolation, and on cold nights, neighbors claimed they could hear her singing songs in a language no one recognized. Then, one winter night in 1851, Eliza Harlow walked out into a snowstorm and never came back. Search parties found nothing. No body. No footprints leading away from the house. Just ... gone. She left behind 3 daughters, Martha, Clara, and June, 8 years old at the time, identical in every way. Same pale skin, same dark hair, same cold, unblinking stare. After their mother disappeared, the girls were raised by their father in that isolated farmhouse on Hollow Creek. But Jacob Harlow was not a kind man. He was cruel, violent, and utterly terrified of his own children. A traveling preacher named Silas Drummond passed through Black Hollow in 1856 and stayed at the Harlow house for one night. Years later, before his death, he wrote about that night in his journal. The entry reads, "I woke to the sound of singing. 3 voices, identical, harmonizing in the dark. I crept to the door and saw them, the Harlow girls, standing in a circle around their father's bed. He was awake, but he did not move. He did not speak. He only stared at the ceiling as they sang. When I asked him the next morning what they had been singing, he whispered only this: they were singing to something, and it was singing back." By the time the sisters turned 21, Jacob Harlow was found dead in his bed. Natural causes, the town doctor said, but those who prepared the body for burial noticed something strange. His eyes were still open, and in the reflection of his pupils, you could see 3 figures standing over him. The sisters inherited the house, and from that moment on, things in Black Hollow began to change. It started with the livestock. In the spring of 1859, farmers began finding their animals mutilated in the fields, not killed by wolves or bears. These were precise, surgical. Cattle were drained of blood, but left otherwise untouched, arranged in patterns that made no sense. Chickens were found with their necks twisted in perfect spirals. Pigs lay dead in perfect circles, as if they had been performing some kind of ritual before collapsing. And always, near the bodies, there were symbols carved into the ground. Circles within circles. Eyes without faces. Hands reaching toward something unseen. The town constable, a man named Horace Blackwell, dismissed the incidents as the work of wild animals or pranksters. But the people of Black Hollow knew better. They knew where those symbols came from. They'd seen them before, carved into the trees around the Harlow property. Then came the crops. Entire fields of corn withered overnight, turning black as if scorched by invisible fire. Wells ran dry. The river that fed the town slowed to a trickle, and what little water remained had a strange metallic taste. People began to get sick, fevers, hallucinations. Children woke screaming about women standing at the foot of their beds, whispering in voices that sounded like their mothers. But the worst part? The disappearances. It started with a boy named Thomas Pritchard, 7 years old. He vanished while playing near the edge of town. Search parties combed the woods for days. They found his shoe near Hollow Creek, less than a mile from the Harlow house. 2 weeks later, a young woman named Sarah Mercer went missing. Then an elderly man named Josiah Kane, and 2 more children, all within a month. All last seen near the same area. Panic spread through Black Hollow like wildfire. Families locked their doors at night. No one went out after sunset, and everyone whispered the same question. What are the Harlow sisters doing in that house? Finally, on June 21st, 1859, Constable Blackwell organized a search party. 20 men, armed with rifles and torches, marched up the mountain road to the Hollow Creek farmhouse. What they found there would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The front door was open, swinging gently in the wind. Inside, the house was immaculate, clean, orderly, as if someone had been expecting guests. But the smell. God, the smell. Witnesses described it as a mixture of rotting meat, burnt hair, and something sweet. Something floral. Something that made your stomach turn and your head spin. They found the cellar door at the back of the kitchen. It was locked from the outside, but the lock had been broken. Someone or something had forced it open from within. Constable Blackwell descended the stairs first, holding a lantern in one trembling hand. What he saw down there made 2 of his men flee the house immediately, never to speak of it again. In the center of the cellar was a perfect circle drawn in what appeared to be dried blood. Inside the circle, 3 wooden chairs were arranged facing inward. On each chair sat a pile of women's clothing, dresses, identical in design, neatly folded. But that wasn't the worst part. Arranged around the circle were bones. Human bones. Small ones. Children's bones. Carved with intricate symbols and arranged in patterns that seemed to shift and change when you looked at them too long. On the far wall hung an enormous mirror, cracked down the center, and smeared across its surface, written in something dark and sticky, were 3 words: "We are free." Constable Blackwell ordered the house to be searched top to bottom. They found more evidence in the attic. Journals written in a strange, looping script. Drawings of figures with too many limbs. Jars filled with unidentifiable substances. And a wax cylinder recording device, one of the earliest models, rare and expensive. Blackwell took the cylinder back to town. That night, in front of a small gathering of town elders, he played it. What they heard was a woman's voice, soft, trembling, speaking barely above a whisper. "If you are hearing this, then we have succeeded. We are no longer bound by flesh, no longer chained to this place. Mother showed us the way. She opened the door, and now we have walked through it. Do not look for us. Do not speak our names. We didn't leave. You just forgot." The recording ends with laughter. 3 voices, identical, echoing as if coming from a great distance. The next morning, Constable Horace Blackwell was found dead in his office. No marks on his body, no sign of struggle, but his eyes were wide open, staring at nothing. And on his desk, written in ash, were those same 3 words, "We are free." Panic consumed Black Hollow. Within a week, half the town had packed up and left. Those who remained locked themselves in their homes, refusing to come out even during the day. The church held prayer vigils every night, but attendance dwindled as more people vanished without explanation. Then, 1 month after the discovery at the Harlow house, something impossible happened. People began to forget, not just about the Harlow sisters, about the entire town. A traveling merchant passing through the region stopped at what should have been Black Hollow and found nothing but empty buildings. When he asked at the next town about what had happened, no one knew what he was talking about. Black Hollow? Never heard of it. Maps were checked. Records were searched. And slowly, horrifyingly, people realized that Black Hollow was being erased. Census records that once listed the town now showed blank spaces. Deeds to properties simply vanished from county archives. Even letters sent from Black Hollow residents to family members in other towns were found to have inexplicably faded, the ink disappearing from the pages. By 1860, Black Hollow no longer existed. Not on any map. Not in any official record. It was as if the town had never been there at all. But the house remained. Locals from neighboring valleys began to report strange occurrences near Hollow Creek. Hikers who wandered too close to the old Harlow property would return disoriented, unable to remember where they'd been. Some didn't return at all. In 1891, a surveying team for the railroad came across the farmhouse. They documented it, took photographs, and marked it on their maps. But when they returned a week later to begin clearing the land, the house was gone. Not destroyed, just gone. The photographs they'd taken showed nothing but empty forest. In 1923, a local historian named Edmund Graves became obsessed with the Black Hollow legend. He spent years tracking down descendants of those who had lived there, collecting oral histories and searching for any remaining evidence of the town's existence. He found 3 elderly individuals who claimed to remember Black Hollow. All 3 told him the same story, almost word for word. They spoke of the Harlow sisters, the disappearances, the discovery in the cellar. But when Graves asked them to show him where the town had been, all 3 refused. "You don't go looking for them," one old woman told him, "because if you go looking, they'll find you instead." Edmund Graves ignored the warning. In the summer of 1924, he organized an expedition into the mountains, determined to find the location of Black Hollow and the Harlow farmhouse. He was never seen again. His journal was found 6 months later by a group of hunters, wedged between 2 rocks near a stream. The final entry, written in a shaking hand, reads, "I found it. The house is real, and they're still here. I can hear them singing. 3 voices. They're calling my name. I shouldn't have come. I shouldn't have looked for them, because now they see me too." The rest of the pages are blank, except for the very last page, where someone had written in neat, feminine handwriting, "Welcome home, Edmund." For decades, the story of the Harlow sisters remained nothing more than a local legend, a ghost story told to frighten children. But in the 1970s, something happened that brought the legend back to life. A team of folklorists from a university in Pennsylvania came to the region to document Appalachian folktales. One of their informants, an elderly man named Caleb Stone, told them about Black Hollow. But unlike other storytellers, Caleb claimed to have proof. He led them to a hidden spot in his attic and showed them a box of items his grandfather had saved. Inside were photographs, blurry, faded, but unmistakable. Images of a town, buildings, people, And in one photograph, standing in front of a farmhouse, 3 young women in identical dresses, staring directly at the camera with cold, emotionless eyes. On the back of the photograph, someone had written, "Martha, Clara, and June Harlow. May God have mercy on their souls." The folklorists took the photograph and the other items back to their university for analysis. The photograph was confirmed to be authentic, dating back to the mid-1800s. But when they tried to return to Caleb Stone to ask more questions, they found his house abandoned. Caleb was gone, and so was the box of items. All they had left was that one photograph. And even that mysteriously vanished from the university archives in 1982. But the story didn't end there. In 2019, a group of documentary filmmakers decided to investigate the legend of the Harlow sisters. They called themselves the Appalachian Truth Seekers, and their mission was to uncover forgotten history and expose the truth behind local legends. The team consisted of 4 people: Marcus, the director; Jenna, the researcher; Kyle, the cameraman; and Renee, the sound technician. Jenna had spent months researching the Black Hollow legend. She'd tracked down the few remaining oral histories, cross-referenced old maps, and even found a reference to the town in a faded newspaper article from 1858. Using all available information, she triangulated the approximate location where Black Hollow would have stood. In October 2019. The team hiked into the Appalachian wilderness, cameras rolling, determined to find the truth. For the first 2 days, everything went smoothly. They documented their journey, interviewed a few locals who refused to give their names, and slowly made their way deeper into the mountains. On the 3rd day, they found it. The Hollow Creek farmhouse. It was exactly as described in the old stories. Rotting wood, shattered windows, a structure that should have collapsed decades ago, but somehow still stood. And surrounding it, carved into every tree within 100 yards, were those same symbols. Circles within circles, eyes without faces, hands reaching upward. Marcus wanted to go inside immediately, but Jenna hesitated. Something felt wrong. The air was too still, too quiet. No birds, no insects, just silence. But Marcus insisted. They had come all this way. They needed footage. Kyle set up his camera. Renee positioned her microphone, and the 4 of them entered the Hollow Creek farmhouse. The interior was surprisingly intact. Furniture still stood in the rooms, covered in dust and cobwebs. A table was set as if for dinner, plates and silverware perfectly arranged. And in the kitchen, at the back of the house, was the cellar door. It was open. Marcus went down first. The others followed, filming every step. The cellar was exactly as described in the historical accounts. The circle was still there, faded but visible. The 3 chairs remained, now collapsed with age. And on the far wall, barely visible beneath layers of grime and mold, was the mirror, still cracked, still smeared with something dark. Renee set up her recording equipment to capture ambient sound. Almost immediately, her equipment began to pick up something strange, a low-frequency hum, and beneath it, barely audible, voices. "Do you hear that?" She whispered. The others stopped, listened. Yes. Voices, 3 of them, singing in perfect harmony. The same melody over and over. "We need to leave," Jenna said. "Now." But when they turned to go back up the stairs, they found the cellar door had closed. Marcus tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. Kyle's camera battery died. Then Jenna's. Then Marcus's phone. All at once. Only Renee's audio equipment continued to function. And the voices were getting louder, clearer. They weren't coming from the recording. They were coming from behind them. The 4 of them turned slowly. And there, standing in front of the mirror, were 3 figures. 3 women in identical white dresses, their faces obscured by shadow, their hands clasped together. Marcus tried to scream. No sound came out. The women began to move. Not walking, gliding, across the floor. Toward them. Jenna was the first to break. She lunged for the stairs, throwing her weight against the door. It burst open, and the 4 of them scrambled up and out of the cellar, running through the house, not stopping until they were outside. Gasping for air in the cold mountain fog, they ran, for hours, through the forest, down the mountain, not stopping, not looking back. When they finally reached their car, parked miles away on an old logging road, they collapsed, shaking, unable to speak. It was only later, when they reviewed Renee's audio recordings, that they realized something horrifying. The voices. The singing. It was still there on the recording. But at the very end, just before they fled, the singing stopped. And a woman's voice, clear as day, whispered, "Thank you for coming home." The documentary was never released. The team refused to speak publicly about what happened in that cellar. Marcus sold all his equipment and quit filmmaking. Kyle moved across the country. Renee destroyed her audio files, or tried to, but copies had already been backed up to the cloud. In 2021, a paranormal investigator named Dr. Sarah Chun gained access to those audio files. She analyzed them using advanced audio forensic software. What she discovered was impossible to explain. The voices on the recording weren't just 3 women singing. When isolated and slowed down, the audio revealed something else. Dozens of voices. Men, women, children. All singing in unison. All layered on top of each other. All coming from the same source. Dr. Chon published her findings in a small academic journal. She theorized that the Harlow sisters had somehow discovered a way to exist outside normal physical reality. That they had merged with something, or become something. Something that fed on memory and fear. Her paper was largely ignored, dismissed as pseudoscience. But a few researchers took notice. In 2023, a team of archaeologists and historians launched an official investigation into the Black Hollow legend. Using ground-penetrating radar and advanced surveying equipment, they located what they believed to be the remains of the original settlement. Excavations began in June 2023. What they found was both fascinating and deeply disturbing. Foundations of buildings, wells, a church, a small cemetery, all of it exactly where the old stories said it would be. But there was something else. Beneath the cemetery, they found a network of tunnels, hand-dug, connecting various points around the settlement. And at the center of this network, directly beneath where the Harlow farmhouse would have stood, they found a chamber, a ritual chamber. The walls were covered in carvings, the same symbols seen around the farmhouse. But here, they were accompanied by text, written in English, Old English, and something older, something the linguistic experts couldn't identify. The text told a story of 3 sisters who had learned secrets from their mother, secrets passed down through generations, secrets about how to break the bonds of flesh, how to exist beyond death, how to become eternal. But the ritual required a price, a sacrifice, not just of the self, but of others, many others. The more lives given, the stronger the transformation. The disappearances in Black Hollow hadn't been random. They had been offerings. At the center of the chamber, the archaeologists found 3 skeletons, adult females, arranged in a circle, their bones carved with the same symbols. And clutched in each skeleton's hands was a piece of mirror glass. The team carefully removed the remains for study. But that night, back at their base camp, something happened. Equipment malfunctioned. Cameras showed interference. Audio recordings picked up voices, and 3 members of the team reported the same nightmare. 3 women standing at the foot of their beds, singing. The excavation was shut down the next day. The site was sealed, and the remains of the 3 skeletons were reburied in an undisclosed location, under heavy security, but the story continued to spread. Online forums dedicated to the paranormal picked up the legend. Ghost hunters traveled to the region. Most found nothing, but some never came back. In 2024, a popular true crime podcast dedicated an entire season to the Black Hollow case. The podcast went viral. Millions of downloads, countless theories, and a renewed interest in finding the truth. But something else happened too. People who listened to the podcast began reporting strange experiences. Dreams about 3 women, voices in the static between episodes, and an overwhelming urge to travel to the Appalachian Mountains. To find the house, some of them did. And according to local authorities, several of those people are now missing. The old Hollow Creek farmhouse still stands, abandoned, forgotten, waiting. And on certain nights, if you listen carefully, you can still hear them. 3 voices, singing in perfect harmony, calling out to anyone who will listen, because the Harlow sisters aren't gone. They never left. They're still there, in that house, in those woods, in the spaces between memory and reality, and they're waiting for you. I'm telling you this story not to entertain you, not to scare you, but to warn you. If you ever find yourself driving through the Appalachian Mountains, if you ever see an old farmhouse standing alone on a hillside, surrounded by trees carved with strange symbols, if you ever hear singing in the woods at night, 3 voices in perfect harmony, do not investigate. Do not approach. Do not try to document it, because some stories aren't meant to be uncovered. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. And some legends exist as warnings, not as curiosities. The Harlow sisters were erased from history for a reason. The town of Black Hollow was forgotten on purpose, because remembering them gives them power. Every time their story is told, they grow stronger. Every time someone searches for them, they draw closer. And every time someone finds that house, they claim another soul. There are currently 17 people listed as missing in the Appalachian region surrounding the suspected location of Black Hollow. 17 people who went looking for answers. 17 people who may have found exactly what they were searching for. The authorities have stopped investigating. The area has been quietly designated as off-limits, though no official explanation has been given. Hiking trails have been closed. Roads have been blocked. And locals have been told, once again, to forget. But forgetting is hard when the voices keep calling. I spoke to someone who claims to be a descendant of one of the Black Hollow survivors. She asked to remain anonymous, but she told me something that I can't stop thinking about. She said that her great-great-grandmother, one of the few who escaped the town before it vanished, left behind a letter, a warning to future generations. The letter said this: they are not dead. They are not alive. They exist in the space between. They are memory made flesh, fear made manifest. And they are always waiting. Do not speak their names. Do not seek their home. Because if you do, you give them permission. Permission to remember you. And once they remember you, you become part of them. Forever. The letter was destroyed decades ago. Burned, according to family tradition. But the words were memorized and passed down. A warning. A curse. A truth too terrible to ignore. So I'm asking you now, please, if you've listened to this story, if you've learned about the Harlow sisters, if you've felt even the slightest curiosity about finding that house, stop. Forget. Move on, because they're listening. Right now, in this moment, they hear every word spoken about them, every thought directed toward them, every search query typed into a computer dot. And if you go looking for them, ... they will find you. I'll leave you with one final piece of evidence. Something I wasn't sure I should share. But you need to know. 3 months ago, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Postmarked from a town that doesn't exist. Inside was a photograph. Old, faded, but clear enough to see. It shows 3 young women standing in front of a farmhouse. Identical white dresses. Dark hair. Cold, unblinking stares. The Harlow sisters. Martha, Clara, and June. But there's something else in the photograph. Something I didn't notice at first. In the window of the farmhouse, behind the sisters, there's a face. A modern face. Wearing modern clothes. Staring out at the camera with wide, terrified eyes. I had the photograph analyzed. It's authentic. Taken in the 1850s. But the face in the window belongs to someone from 2019. One of the documentary filmmakers, Marcus, the director. He's still alive. Living in California. I called him to ask about it. He hung up immediately. Blocked my number. But before he did, I heard something in the background of the call. Singing. 3 voices. Harmonizing perfectly. Marcus hasn't posted on social media in months. His friends say he's become reclusive, paranoid, that he keeps talking about hearing voices, about seeing 3 women standing outside his window at night. I don't know what happened to him in that cellar. I don't know what he saw. But I know this. Whatever the Harlow sisters are, they're not finished. They're still reaching out, still claiming victims, still waiting for the next person to remember them. So I'm asking you one last time. Forget this story. Close this video. Move on with your life. Because the more you think about them, the more power you give them. And the more likely they are to come for you. But if you can't forget, if you're already feeling that pull, that curiosity, that need to know more ... I'm sorry. Because you've already made your choice. And they've already noticed you. Good luck. You're going to need it. Thank you for watching Dark Case Files. If you made it this far, if you're still here, if you're still listening, I want you to do something for me. Don't hit the like button. Don't leave a comment. Don't share this video. Just close it. Walk away. Forget you ever heard this story. But if you can't, if you need to know more, if you're already planning your trip to the Appalachian Mountains ... then at least subscribe. Turn on notifications, because I'll be covering what happens next. The new disappearances, the new sightings, the people who went looking and never came back. Maybe one of them will be you. And remember, the truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it traps you forever. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and whatever you do, don't go looking for the Harlow sisters, because if you do, they'll make sure you never leave. This has been Dark Case Files. I'm your host, and I'm begging you, please, just forget.